Hey friend, welcome to my podcast. I'm Megan and I'm here to chat about the good, the bad, and the ugly of life, faith, family, and so much more. Of course, the conversation will be sprinkled with a little garlic salt for seasoning. I like my podcast like I like my food, and bland ain't it, y'all. I'm so happy you've decided to spend time with me today. I know your time is valuable, so let's get right to it. I have come with nothing prepared, y'all. I'm sitting in my car. If you hear me squirming around, I'm in my car, and I'm happy to be back. It's been a while. I think since April, and we're in September now, so it's been a while. A lot has happened since I last recorded a podcast. We left Louisiana and moved to Arizona in June when the kids got out of school, and we began homeschooling again. We have not been home since June, and we're in September now, which has been kind of hard. It's been extremely stressful getting adjusted to the culture of Arizona. It's so different than the South. I'm just gonna say it. It is so different. Which we had the conversation about loving people and being kind to people, but today somebody cut us off on the road, and I was like, what an idiot. And one of my kids goes, all the people here are idiots. And I realized in that moment that I really need to watch how I speak about people, because I don't want my children going around saying people are idiots. But then I thought, and I actually said out loud, well, there's idiots everywhere. They just have different accents over here. So I had to make that known that Arizona definitely has different accents. I would much rather hear accents from Mississippi and Louisiana. And I truly do miss that. There's so many things that I miss about the South while we're over here. Like food. The food here is so not good. The only food that is good, and I'm not lying, I'm not joking when I say this, the only food that has been consistently good is Popeyes. And that is a hard thing for me to admit, that the only food that has tasted good here has been Popeyes. We've tried different Mexican restaurants. They say that it's different over here, like this is more authentic Mexican food. I don't think it is. I think the Mexican food was better in Texas than it is here. It is not good here. The Panda Express is dry. Like, we can't even eat chain restaurants and them taste the same. I do not understand it. Like, you would at least think that there would be a pretty linear flavor across the board for chain restaurants, and Popeyes is it. Popeyes is the only one that's tasted good. I joke how I'm the only one that has good food in this area because I use a lot of garlic salt, and I use garlic, the actual garlic. I mince it myself with a little garlic press, and I make good food. And so if I want good comfort food, I literally have to get it from the store and create it myself, which is hard because I don't like cooking all the time. And I'm even hit or miss on my food. Like, sometimes my food tastes horrible. Sometimes it's almost not edible. And so that's something that we're having to adjust to. If you follow me on social media, you will see where I've had lots and lots and lots of issues with our campground management. That's been an adjustment. We moved up here, and in my mind, I'm like, we're not campground people. We've lived on a house pad in Louisiana. We lived on a house pad for the last 8 months. And before that, we tried being in Texas on in a little campground. And even that was tough. Like, having neighbors right next to you is tough. And now we're in the middle of the desert with neighbors. And, oh my goodness, let me tell y'all. Okay, because I hadn't told a lot of people our experience here, because I don't call my friends because I don't want to get homesick and upset. So if my friends are listening, this is what I would be telling you on the phone. and I don't call and talk on the phone a whole lot because I get homesick. And when I get homesick, I get angry because I realized my sadness comes out in anger. My sadness comes out in anger. I've learned that about myself recently, and I'm admitting it. And my sadness, when I'm sad, I'm gonna be mean. I'm gonna be extra mean. And so, when I talk to my friends on the phone, as much as I love y'all, I get off the phone and I'm sad, and then I'm mean. And I've got to figure out how to balance that because I want to talk to y'all. I want to talk to my family and friends and not get off the phone and be like, I'm ready to go home. Because home literally is where we park it. Anyways, back to Arizona. Okay, number one, these are things that I did not know about Arizona before we moved here. First of all, I didn't know where Arizona was when Albert came here. Albert actually moved here in March. The reason he moved here, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in any of my podcasts leading up to April, but the reason Albert came here is because a friend of ours that we met in Cameron, Louisiana in 2021, a friend of ours, the husband texted Albert and was like, hey, I need you to come run a crane. And at the same time he was texting Albert that, he texted his wife, and his wife messaged me the screenshot saying, please call Megan and ask if Juice can come operate a crane. And at that same exact time, I had sent her a screenshot of a memory on Facebook. So it was like we never talked. There was not never, but we talked like once every few months because kids, and life gets busy. So we don't talk regularly, but we message each other at the exact minute, but we're 2 hours apart. But when the text messages came through, it was the exact minute. So I was like, Albert, I think you're supposed to be in Arizona. And so that was on a Monday. We joked about it, like, haha, yeah, right, Arizona. So then on Tuesday, he was like, Arizona? Really? Like, is Arizona really what I'm supposed to be? What is this what's supposed to happen? So then on Saturday, he left. He might have left on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember. So Saturday, he was gone. He drove up here. It took him like 20 hours, 18 hours, something like that to get here from Louisiana. And he stayed in a hotel. Well, because we lived in our camper still in Louisiana, we lived in our camper, so he couldn't pull the camper, and the kids were still in school, and I told him I was not moving the kids until they completed school, which is a whole nother thing I want to talk to y'all about, because, oh my goodness, having to make decisions is so hard. All right, back on track. I told y'all I didn't prepare nothing, and y'all know when I don't prepare nothing, I get squirrely, and we go different directions, and we go 90 to nothing in all these different areas, because I cannot stay on track. Okay, back to it. So Albert lived here in a hotel from March until June. The kids got out of school at the end of May. We went to Mississippi and visited for a few days or a week or so, and then we went back to Louisiana. And, I didn't even tell y'all about that. Okay, another quick story because I have so much to catch up on. So when I say sadness is shown as anger in my life, I got a clear view of that. So it was like a great picture, like it unfolded in front of my eyes, this picture. And I had really gotten into reading the Bible with the kids and reading the Bible at night, and so like I was very much being attacked by the enemy, and I was very much aware that we were being attacked by the enemy while we were still in Cameron, without my husband, without the patriarch, the man of the house. We were under attack, and I was very aware of that. Albert flew in to Lake Charles. Beautiful day, y'all. It was a beautiful day. He flew in, had no issues flying in. We went and picked up his truck at the shop that was putting like a drag up tank, like an extra fuel tank on the back of his truck. We went and picked his truck up because he had bought a dually at Easter. When he came for Easter, when his daddy had passed away, and he came down, and then when we came back to Louisiana, he bought a dually so that he could pull the camper. And We drive the dually, or I take him to pick it up, and I go ahead, because he had a couple of errands to run in town, I go ahead to get to the camper to get it set up and pulled in, like get all the slides in and everything. Okay, another little side note, our cat, we had a cat, his name was Mocha, and we had a cat that we had to get rid of. Like, he was not going to ride in the airplane, in the airplane, I said airplane in the sky right now because I'm sitting in my car, I told y'all. I was not going to have a cat riding in the camper or in a vehicle with us. I'm highly allergic to cats. We only had the cat for rodent control. He was an outside cat. He would come in the house and in the camper, he would like jump up on the cabinets. I caught him up on the cabinets like licking bowls a couple of times. I said, no, we ain't having a cat no more in the house. Like, this cat has to go outside. He turned to a boy overnight. He was literally a girl for like 6 weeks, and then Albert was like cradling him one day, and he was like, Mocha has blueberries. Mocha's not a girl, Mocha's a boy. And once we found out that he was a boy, it all made sense, because he had been spraying the shower curtain. He had been spraying the curtains on the windows. He sprayed the Christmas tree. Like, the Christmas tree was wet and stunk. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? So we had this cat that was outside, and I posted on Facebook, we're pulling out of here today. Nobody has come to pick up this cat that said they were going to pick up this cat. He's an outside-ish cat. He is not fixed. He is a mature kitten. This cat had fought every single male cat in the neighborhood because we heard him fighting. Every night we heard him fighting. And we knew he could hold his own. I said, we are leaving. This cat's going to be by the trash can with his litter box. Like, and y'all can call PETA on me. I don't care. I don't do pets. And our sweet vice principal or assistant principal, I don't know what they call her, at the school was like, hey, we need a mature kitten for our barn. We don't need one that needs a lot of attention or babying. And so they met me, but on the way down, they were going to come meet me. So on the way down from Lake Charles, we live 45 minutes south of Lake Charles. And I get to this stop sign on this 2-lane highway, and I'm about to turn onto another 2-lane highway. And my friend's husband like whips up around me, flying, and passes me as I'm sitting at the stop sign. And I'm like, okay, rude. So I text the wife, and I'm like, hey, is everything okay? Because your husband just like flew past me, like pulled out in front of a truck on the highway in such a hurry. And she's like, yeah, girl, he was a volunteer firefighter. And so he had to go from the next town up all the way down to Cameron where we lived, because one of the generator refueling tanks blew up or caught fire or something, and there was a fire at the generators that power this entire community. All of the community is still being powered by generators from the Hurricane Laura in 2020, and we're in 2023 now, and they're still being powered by generators. And so they have to get new they have to get fueled. They have to get refueled by either diesel or I think the LNG every a couple times a day or something like that. And so the truck somehow got a spark. I don't know if it was a cigarette or what, but got a spark and blew up. And it was like 1.5 miles from our camper. And so she's like, all the power's out down there. They're starting to evacuate. And I'm sitting here thinking, we got to get our camper out of there right now. And so I'm driving down south, 45 minutes through the marsh on the land bridge, and we get all the way down there. And I wait in the corner for the vice principal, and she follows me to the camper, and they meet Mocha, and we see the smoke billowing like less than 2 miles from the camper. And her kids are just in love with the cat already, and he's just like, put me down. I'm not a holding cat. Like, I don't want to be held, but he's real good. He was very timid. And so, we got them set up, and I think we tried to wait for Albert to get there. because he had some of the kids, and I wanted Oliver and them to say bye to their friends because she had kids in school with them, and it was just sad. And so we got this explosion down the road. We have no power. Albert wanted to like take a nap and leave, and he couldn't take a nap. Like, there was no power. It was already hot in there. And so we finally get loaded up. Finally, it took forever. We get loaded up. There's this massive fire in Cameron, and we start heading. So at that point, also, we can't cross the ferry, because we were going to cross the ferry, which would take us right over to Texas. Like, we would come up the bottom coastline of Texas and be able to get on I-10 from there. But this made us have to go up and around through Lake Charles, which added like an extra hour and a half. So we're heading north, and I see smoke in Lake Charles across the marsh. I'm like, what has happened in Lake Charles? So, come to find out, a storm blew through Lake Charles, and lightning hit one of those big refueler tanks, like what they have at airports for airplanes to refuel. If you're from Meridian, where I'm from, it's those big tanks that are over by the airport. But if you're in Lake Charles, it's like what they hold the fuel in, what their refinery, I guess, creates. I don't know how it all works. Anyways, lightning struck the plant in Lake Charles. It just hit like one little thing on the top, and it blew. And so I'm sitting there like driving like, oh, Jesus, please get us out of here safe. I understand now how my parents and grandparents and my sister and brother felt whenever I used to get so angry in Meridian, and I would leave just blazing a trail behind me. I would be so angry, but I wasn't angry. I was just sad. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, and this, I know this all sounds crazy probably, but it paralleled to me, because I'm sitting here thinking, we have created roots in Lake Charles. And I know these fires didn't happen because of my family leaving Lake Charles. Like, I understand that. But the visual for me was too powerful. So I'm sitting here thinking, Lake Charles is mad that we're leaving. What? Why is Lake Charles so mad that we're leaving? And we had just read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and me and the kids, like a couple of nights or a week or so before, we read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm telling my friend this, who's like very in tune with her faith, and she's like, girl, you better not turn back. You're going to turn into a pillar of salt. And I'm like, is this it? Like, we can't come back to Lake Charles now? And I don't think that that's necessarily the picture that God was trying to give me. I don't think that was the main event, you know, like you're going to turn into a pillar of salt, or you're going to be cursed if you return to this land. I just think that we had so much going against us. If I could even tell y'all, I can't right now. I can't tell y'all everything. I can't tell y'all all the things that we've gone through, because it's been something that I had to process. And even Albert looks at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, Albert, it is the enemy. The enemy is alive, and the enemy is well after our family. And so I can't tell y'all everything, but I look at that picture of us leaving Lake Charles and all these crazy things happening. As soon as we crossed the 210 bridge, I could see that fire blazing in that fuel tank. And then we got across the bridge and we got into Sulphur. And as we got into Sulphur on I-10 and we were headed west, there was this huge storm that came through on the Texas border, and there was like a wreck, and we were doing like 5 miles an hour, and I'm like sitting there calling Albert every 3 minutes, like, can we please just find somewhere to stop on this side of Houston? And he's like, no, we are going through Houston, and we will not stop until we get to the other side of Houston. And it took him a lot to like make me understand, we're not stopping, we're going, and we're not turning back. And like, I have a hard time listening to Albert, because for so many years, he let me be the leader. for so many years, he let me make the decisions, or he would pass the buck to me and be like, well, you decide. You tell me what you want. I'll do whatever you want. That is not my role in our marriage. My role is to take what my husband says and we make that work for our family. And so I trusted him, and I didn't want to. And I really wanted to just stop. Like, as soon as we got out of Cameron, I'm like, if we could just get out of Lake Charles and into Texas, if we can just stop here, I would feel so much better. And he's like, no, we're going to keep pushing through. So we did about a 6-hour drive. We found this cute little campground that had a pool. The people were so nice. I think it was called like Columbus RV Park or something. And it was so nice. Like, the grass was grown up. Yes, they were in the middle of building a new office building, and it was kind of like rough, but the people were so nice. And we spent the night. The kids got to swim. We got up the next morning. We got all the way through San Antonio, which was crazy. That was insane. I got separated from Albert somehow. I don't even know how that happened, because he does like 85 pulling a camper, and I'm sitting here doing like 71 looking for cops, because I've had too many speeding tickets. I can't even speed comfortably anymore. So I got separated from Albert, and I only had the twins. He had the 3 boys, and I had the twins, who were 5 years old now. And y'all, we got to the other side of San Antonio. Oh, I forgot all about this too. And our freaking roof is like going insane. So I can't even tell y'all about that, because it's a whole, it was bad. But yeah, I had to stop at Walmart. We had to get Flex Seal tape. We had to get glue. We had to get staples and staple guns and all the things. We had to mitigate, okay? And so, I'm like, I want to tell y'all every single tiny detail, but I know we don't have time for it. So yeah, the roof was an issue. Albert is livid. He's like calling the man that worked on it, and he's like telling him all these things, and I'm like, it's Sunday, Albert. He's not going to answer. There's nothing we can do. There's literally nothing we can do except keep going. So we kept going, and we made it all the way. Y'all, we saw Mexico. And at that point, I had Miller and the twins, I think. Or I might have just had Miller and Walker. I'm not sure. But when we came through the mountains, the very first mountains we saw were past San Antonio. And I remember Darcy and Walker going, this is the best day ever, because you brought us to see these mountains. And y'all, they were so cute. And those hills going up and down were so just, like, I don't even know the word. It was unreal. Like, I had never seen desert mountains, I guess. And that's literally, like, all we went through until we got to Arizona. Was past San Antonio, West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona has been nothing but desert mountains. Mountains made of nothing but just piles of rock. And I'm driving through this, and I'm thinking to myself, how can people not believe in a God that created this? This didn't happen because of a big bang. This didn't happen because of evolution. These things had to have been created by a God who cared so much about detail. And I just remember thinking that through every single new town we went through. And we spent the night at a KOA in Las Cruces. It was so nice. I told Albert, I ain't never stayed anywhere this nice. Like, not even a hotel. I've never stayed at a hotel as nice as the KOA in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Okay, we're at the top of this little cliff kind of deal, and it was beautiful. It was very well manicured. They had like 4th of July flags set up everywhere. It was so cute. Love that place. Cannot wait to go home. I cannot wait to go home so we can stop back by it. So anyways, we went to the Las Cruces KOA, spent one night there, woke up the next morning, went and got breakfast. We crossed the Rio Grande. I didn't even realize we had crossed the Rio Grande on the interstate, but we crossed the Rio Grande on just like this little bridge, like a regular bridge in downtown. And that little town is like set in history. It has like the cutest, like 50s and 60s retro style like buildings, and it was so cool. Which it's funny because everything like east of there, it's like everything has been kind of updated. Like things are more modern, but then if you go west, if you go more west, a lot of things are still set in time, which is really, really cool to see. So we get all the way through Tucson. We get all the way to our campground. We park. My friend and her husband's there. We get to hang out with Maddie. We get everything kind of undone, the camper undone. That was an ordeal because where they put us, we were going to be by the dog park, which meant that we weren't going to have neighbors behind us. What we didn't know is that people were going to be talking there at all hours of the night, all the time. So, and we were told we couldn't pull through the spot behind us, that Albert had to back into this spot that was like really close to a fence. And he was like, that's not, that ain't gonna work. So Albert did what Albert does and did what he wanted, and he pulled back around, he made the big loop, and he came through. Well, we later found out that that was the 55 upside, and we were on the 55 underside. And, it was downhill from there. It was just downhill from there. We got in trouble. All the kids got in trouble that very next week, which I'll tell you all about all that later. But, I remember what we were going to talk about. We were going to talk about things I didn't know happen in Arizona. In the desert, first of all, yes, it rains. They don't have rain. They call it a monsoon season, okay? So they get monsoons, which are like thunderstorms. They don't just get rain, because when it rains, the rain doesn't even make it to the ground. Like sometimes, I think like 3 times since June, it has rained like 10 drops on the camper. But other than that, it evaporates because it's so dry here. Well, when a monsoon comes through, it pushes dust ahead of it. So you get a dust storm, and then after the dust storm, you get rain. Well, that didn't happen while we were parked by the dog park. We waited, and a camper spot came open right beside our friends, and so we moved over there. And when we moved over there, it was in July something. Yeah, it was 4th of July weekend. Which was a whole nother story, because nothing ever comes easy for our family. And I know that this is probably for you too. Like, if you look at your life and you think nothing ever comes easy for us, like nothing happens easily ever. There's always a hiccup. There's always something. Like, we went to move our camper and our hydraulics did not work. We could not pull our slides in. Which had been a recent issue. And when it was an issue before, when we moved to Texas last year, y'all remember that? They didn't work because the hydraulic mechanism had caught fire and burned up and smoldered itself out. Well, this time it was a whole different issue. So, our hydraulics couldn't come in, so we couldn't move that day. And it's hilarious. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this so I can take notes on what I've told you and what I hadn't told you, so I can tell you the rest of the story next time. But, okay, so it rains in Arizona. They get monsoons. But when it gets to a certain degree of thunderstorm, you get tropical storm-like winds, and you get this like massive wall of dust ahead of it, and then they call it a haboob. And we got a haboob the other day. I thought we had been through a haboob. We hadn't been through that. We had been through the monsoons, the miniature ones. Well, this one, because we're facing the south now, our front door faces the south, we saw it coming. We watched it coming, and then when the winds got there, it bowed the sides of the walls in. And that was, oh my gosh, that was so scary. Darcy was like, I don't want to live in a camper. I don't want to live in a camper anymore. I'm scared. I don't want to live in a camper. And I'm like, baby, I know. I'm looking up this verse because it is what I was thinking. Okay. This is Matthew 7:24-29 in the English Standard Version, because that's what Google just pulled up. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. Thank you, Jesus, for even though we live in a camper that is mobile, that can be pulled from anywhere to anywhere with a truck in 5 minutes of hooking up, thank you, Jesus, that our house will not fall, because we are building our house on the rock. And I say that because I have to be confident that my God is looking out for my family after the trials that we have been through, and after all the things that we've been through. I have to know that my faith stands strong in Jesus, and in the name of Jesus, my family is growing in Christ, and we have to stand strong in that. And we've been blessed by the name of Jesus, and we have been blessed, and we are going to continue calling on the name of Jesus during storms like that, because that was scary. That was borderline tropical storm hurricane scary coming through, and our house shook, and our house, it bowed, and it sucked in, and it pushed out, and it was scary. But like I tell my kids, even if we die in a storm, I hope that we don't. I hope that we have lots and lots of time left to live on this earth. Even if we die in a storm, if our heart and our trust is in Jesus, then we know where we're going, and we don't have anything that we have to worry about. And I'm going to leave y'all on that, because it has been 32 minutes, and Cooper's about to get out of youth group. He just started in a new youth group at a church over here, and I'm, oh my goodness, so thankful for that, because he needs kids his age to talk to, and he misses the vineyard in Lake Charles, and I miss the vineyard in Lake Charles so much. But we are we're planting little roots here while we're here, so that we can stay firm, and that we can stay grounded and keep our foot where it needs to be. So, and that is not up somebody else's butt. Sorry, I had to throw that in there, okay? But y'all, I'm so happy to be back, and I hope to get back in here and record at least once a week, if not more, because I have so much that I need to tell y'all about, and I'm paying for it. If I'm paying for the app on Podbean, I might as well be recording, right? I shouldn't just pay to have it playing old stuff. If you haven't, I am reading the Bible over at the Psalms and the Little Books. The Psalms and the Little Books of the Bible. We're reading through the little books, the little letters that Paul wrote to the churches in the Bible. I want to read through that. I want to read through the Gospels. I want to read the whole New Testament first, and then we'll go through the Old Testament. I might double up. I might read a New Testament NIV and then skip into a KJV or the King James Version. I don't know. I feel like listening to somebody that you know is easier for you to listen and feel like it's being read to you. And also, I want my children to be able one day to listen to me reading the Bible to them if Podbean keeps my stuff up. I don't know. I got to figure out a better podcast platform, because this is hard. And everybody says, I can teach you how to do a podcast in 5 minutes. I can teach you how to do a podcast in 3 easy steps. It's hard to do a podcast, I think. I'm technologically not there all the way. But I hope y'all were able to keep up. I had a lot to say. I have a lot more to say. Other things it's crazy about Arizona. A hurricane still can reach over here, because one hit California the other day and sent a lot of wind and rain. And they have frogs. I didn't know they had frogs. Other than that, there's not too much else. Oh, there's dirt tornadoes everywhere. If you've never seen that, it's called a dirt devil or a dust devil. I don't know. It's crazy. All right. I love y'all. We'll talk later.